They told us the silence meant they were gone. I want that on record. I want the galactic continuance, whatever remains of it, to understand that the vote was not made in ignorance of the legend. We knew the stories. Every species with a functioning archive knew the stories. The exclusion zone had stood for 211 years. A corridor of empty space, 17 light passages across, where no beacon answered and no ship returned. We knew what the cartographers had written in the margins. We knew what the elder species did not say when the subject arose in council. We knew all of it. We voted anyway. 43 voices in favor. Abstentions. No dissent. I was the third voice called. I voted yes. I am the only member of that council still alive. My name is Sorath Vel. I am the last seated elder of the Vethani continuance, and I am giving this testimony from aboard the remnant convoy, now designated Vethani Exile, fleet, running on minimal drive beyond what used to be the outer boundary. I am giving it because the galactic record must have a cause of war document, and no one else is left to file one. When I am finished, I will not speak of this again. The argument that carried the vote was simple. 2 centuries of silence, the faction said, was not a warning. It was a vacuum. The legend of human space, the fleet that answered every incursion, the line that swallowed ships whole, the elder species that went quiet whenever the subject turned eastward on the charts. All of that, they said, was the galaxy's oldest superstition. A story told so long it had calcified into policy. Show me the bodies, Delegate Oren said, standing at the floor podium with his long fingers spread wide. Show me the battle record. Show me a single engagement log. There are none. There is only silence. And silence, he said, is what dead civilizations leave. He was not entirely wrong. That is the part that still keeps me awake. There were no engagement logs. There was no battle record. Every vessel that had crossed into the exclusion zone had simply stopped reporting. No distress signal. No debris field on the near side. No final transmission crackling with fear. Just the last entry ping, clean and nominal. And then the administrative silence of a ship that was no longer anywhere in the record. Delegate Oren called that a data failure. He called it the galaxy collectively misremembering a boundary dispute from 2 centuries past, inflated by retelling into myth. He called it an opportunity. The probe we sent was a modest thing, a standard deep survey package, unarmed, casting on the open scientific frequencies. The ones any civilization monitoring the spectrum would recognize as non-threatening. It carried a greeting in 47 languages, including 3 that humans had used in their last recorded transmissions before the silence began. It carried a declaration of Vethani scientific intent and a formal notice, in the language of the Compact Charter, that the Vethani continuance did not recognize the exclusion zone as legally binding under current galactic law. It was, Delegate Oren said in the chamber that morning, simply a letter. We launched it on the 41st day of the 3rd session. The council floor was nearly full. There was something close to celebration in the air. The particular lightness of people who believe they are about to be proved right about something. Everyone else was too afraid to question. I remember thinking that the elder species observers had all sent their regrets that session. Every one of them. Different excuses. I remember thinking it was unusual. The probe crossed the boundary marker and kept transmitting, tracked its signal for 6 hours before the range degraded. It was still broadcasting when we lost contact. No intercept, no destruction, no response. It simply went in, and the signal faded the way signals fade at distance, and that was all. For 18 days nothing came back. The faction was insufferable. I say that without bitterness. I had voted with them, and I shared their confidence, and I was wrong alongside them. We held 3 sessions in those 18 days. We drafted the formal proposal to petition the Compact for a surveying license in the former exclusion zone. We talked about what resources might be recovered from 2 centuries of unclaimed space. Delegate Oren commissioned a preliminary chart of the sector, with the exclusion notation removed. The Cartographers Guild accepted the commission and returned a proof within the week. It was a clean chart. Corridor looked like nothing at all when you took the warning off it. Just stars. On the 19th day, the human fleet crossed the boundary. I will not give you numbers. I have given the numbers to the Compact Intake Committee, and they will publish them in the formal record, and I do not want to say them aloud again. What I will tell you is that they did not come fast. That is what I remember most, how slowly they came. No forward rush, no assault formation, no targeting signals flooding our communications array. They crossed the boundary at a pace that suggested they had already calculated every variable and found none of them worth hurrying for. They came the way a tide comes, the way a season changes, as if the crossing itself was a formality, and they had simply been waiting for the invitation. Our defense fleet moved to intercept. I am told the engagement lasted approximately 4 minutes. I was not on the bridge. I was in the archived bay, pulling the sealed historical files on every prior exclusion zone incident, reading as fast as I could, looking for something that would tell me what came next. There was nothing in the files that told me what came next. There was only the consistent record of what had come before, the entry ping and the silence. The continuance broadcast a cessation of hostility signal 17 minutes after the fleet crossed. The humans acknowledged it. They did not stop. Ran. I want to be precise about that. The Vethany continuance, 4,300 years of continuous civilization, packed what it could into the convoy vessels and ran. The human fleet did not pursue us past the old boundary marker. I watched the rearward display long enough to confirm that. They held at the line, the original line, the one we had declared non-binding, the one the Cartographers Guild had removed from the proof. And they did not cross it following us. They had simply extended it. The Vethani home system is on the wrong side of that line now. I do not know what is there. I do not know if anything is there. The compact has not sent survey vessels, and I do not expect they will. The elder species, when I filed the preliminary incident notice, responded with a formal acknowledgement and nothing else. No inquiry, no condemnation, no offer of arbitration. One of their senior archive liaisons contacted me privately 2 days after I filed and said only, "We sent regrets to your council session because we did not want to be present when the vote was taken." I asked her why she hadn't warned us more plainly. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We warned you the only way we knew worked." I entering this testimony into the Galactic Record as a cause of war document under Compact Charter, Provision 11, Subsection 4. The Vethani Continuant authorized a signal broadcast into the human exclusion zone on the 41st day of the third council session. The signal was intended to establish that the exclusion zone was a relic of superstition and that the legend of human space was precisely that. A legend, maintained by collective silence rather than fact. The legend answered, "I am Soreth Vel." I was, the third voice called. I voted yes. I have nothing more to say.